There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It just settles quietly beneath your ribs, heavy, still, and constant. That's what betrayal feels like when it comes from your own blood. My name is Marianne, and the woman who betrayed me was my sister, Lila. Before we begin, if you enjoy calm, emotional stories about love, betrayal, and quiet justice, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more reflective tales that speak to the heart. Lila and I were close once, inseparable even. Growing up, we shared everything: clothes, secrets, dreams. She was the soft one, the one everyone adored. I was the steady one, the listener. The one who stood behind her when the world gave her applause. I didn't mind. Not at first. But admiration, I've learned, can become envy when people stop looking at you and only look at what you have. 3 years ago, I met Ethan. He was kind, intelligent, and thoughtful in ways that made me believe in gentleness again. We worked in the same design firm, he as the lead architect, me as a consultant. From the beginning, we connected easily, like two puzzle pieces that had waited too long to meet. When I introduced him to my family, Lila was the first to greet him. Her laugh was bright, her touch lingering just enough to be noticed. I thought nothing of it. Lila was always affectionate. She never knew where friendliness ended and temptation began. Ethan and I were happy, or at least I believed we were. Then came the whispers, the sudden distance, the late nights Ethan couldn't explain. I felt it, that invisible space between us widening, like a hairline crack in glass. And then one afternoon, my mother called. Her voice trembled. "Marianne, I don't know how to tell you this." There was a long pause before she whispered, "Lila and Ethan, they've been seeing each other." I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I simply stood there, the silence in my chest louder than anything I could have said. When I confronted them, they didn't deny it. Ethan looked ashamed, but not enough. And Lila, she looked defiant, almost proud. "He loves me," she said softly, as if it were a defense. I didn't plan it, but I can't help how I feel. Love. That's what she called it, the thing she took from me. I walked away without another word, because sometimes silence holds more dignity than any scream. For months, I disappeared, left the firm, left town. I needed distance from them, from everything. But time has a way of softening grief and sharpening perspective, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized what they had wasn't love. It was infatuation, built on deceit. Lila didn't love Ethan. She loved the version of him I'd introduced, gentle, patient, grounded, the version that existed because I had nurtured it. Without me, he'd unravel. And he did. Through quiet friends and connections, I learned things about Ethan, things Lila never cared to see. The debts he'd hidden, the projects he'd stolen credit for, the lies he'd told to everyone, including me. But I didn't expose him, not yet. I waited. Then one evening, out of nowhere, I received a message from Lila. She wrote, "I'm getting married. I'd love for you to be there." I read that line over and over. There was no apology, no regret, just a fragile, nervous hope that time had erased what she'd done. I didn't respond. But something inside me stirred, not bitterness, not revenge, exactly, something quieter, a desire for truth to find its way home. So I went. On the day of the wedding, the sky was soft and gray, as if even heaven was holding its breath. Lila looked radiant, almost ethereal, in her white gown. Ethan stood at the altar, polished, smiling, the perfect picture of love's illusion. No one noticed me at first. I sat near the back, my presence swallowed by the crowd. But when she turned to walk down the aisle, her eyes found mine. She froze just for a second, then smiled nervously, pretending not to see the ghost she'd buried. I didn't ruin the ceremony. That's not the kind of story this is. But what I did next changed everything. After the ceremony, the air was heavy with celebration, laughter, music, clinking glasses. It was the kind of joy that tastes too sweet, the kind that hides something bitter underneath. I stayed on the edge of it all, invisible, watching, waiting. They looked happy in that glossy, surface way people look when they're too afraid to see what's underneath. Lila's smile trembled at the corners. Ethan's charm flickered like a candle, too close to its end. It wasn't anger that brought me there. It was truth. And truth doesn't need an audience, it just needs the right moment. Later that night, when the guests had begun to drift away and the band played slower songs, Lila found me standing near the garden terrace. She looked uncertain, almost fragile. "Marianne," she whispered, "you came." I nodded. "I did." Her eyes glistened. "I didn't think you would ever forgive me." "I didn't say I forgave you," I replied softly, "but I'm not here to hurt you either." She looked down, twisting her wedding ring, a nervous habit she must have learned from guilt. "He's different now," she said, as if convincing herself. "He's changed. You'll see." I almost pitied her. Almost. "Maybe he has," I said. "But tell me something, Lila. Do you really know who he is?" Her brow furrowed. "Of course I do." I smiled faintly. "Then you'll be fine with what I left for you." She blinked. "What do you mean?" I didn't answer. I just handed her a small white envelope sealed with wax, the same kind she used for her wedding invitations. "Open it later," I said, "when you're alone." Her fingers trembled as she took it. "What is it?" "The truth," I said simply, "the kind that doesn't need to be spoken." And then I walked away. The night air was cool, and as I stepped outside the hall, I felt a strange stillness settle in me. Not satisfaction, not vengeance. Something quieter. Something like release. The next morning, I woke to 3 missed calls from Lila. I didn't answer, but I knew what she had found. Inside the envelope were letters, copies of emails, messages, bank statements, proof of the lies Ethan had told both of us. The stolen money, the second phone, the woman he'd been seeing during their engagement, the same one he told Lila was just a friend from work. And at the very bottom, there was one note from me. "I don't want you to hurt the way I did, Lila, but you should know who you married before love blinds you completely. Truth doesn't destroy, it reveals. Be careful what you do with it." By noon, she showed up at my door. Her makeup was smudged, her hair undone, the gold of her wedding band catching the morning light like an unwanted reminder. She stood there for a moment before breaking down. "You knew," she sobbed. "You knew, and you didn't tell me before the wedding?" "I tried to," I said quietly. "Years ago. You just didn't want to hear anything that didn't sound like love." Her tears came harder, then raw, gasping, full of disbelief. "I thought he was different," she whispered. I looked at her, my sister, the girl who once shared her blanket with me when thunder scared us as children. "He's not," I said. "He never was." For a long time, neither of us spoke. The silence between us wasn't angry, it was heavy, necessary, the sound of truth settling into all the empty spaces where lies used to live. Finally, she said, "You could have ruined the wedding." "I didn't need to," I replied. "Some things ruin themselves." She nodded, slowly, painfully, understanding now that revenge doesn't always wear sharp edges. Sometimes it wears compassion, the kind that cuts deeper than cruelty ever could. When she left, I didn't stop her. I just watched her walk away, shoulders slumped, the perfect picture of someone who had finally met her own reflection. In the days that followed, I heard things that she'd left him, that there were confrontations, tears, shame, but I didn't reach out. She needed space to face what she'd chosen. Months passed. Then one afternoon, I received a letter. It was from Lila. Inside was a single page. "You were right, Marianne. He wasn't who I thought he was, but neither was I. You didn't come back to break me. You came back to remind me what I lost long before him. Myself. I hope one day you'll forgive me." I read it twice, my throat tight, my heart heavy but calm. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't a gift you give the person who hurt you. It's the way you free yourself from them. So I wrote back simply, "Lila, I already did." That's how I found peace again. I never heard from her after that, but sometimes when I walk past the church where she once married him, I see the flowers she plants outside lilies, my favorite. Maybe that's her way of saying sorry, Or maybe it's just her way of remembering. Either way, I no longer carry her betrayal like a wound. It's become a scar, quiet, healed, and proof that truth, once revealed, never needs to shout. Because the sweetest revenge isn't watching someone suffer. It's watching yourself heal in silence while they face the echoes of their choices. They say time heals all things. I don't believe that. But I do believe time shows people who they really are, and sometimes that's the most honest punishment of all. If this story touched you, please like, comment, and subscribe for more calm, emotional tales. Stories that remind us that truth doesn't always come with noise. Sometimes it arrives softly, dressed in silence.